In the history of databases, some releases are just, well, they're updates. But every now and then, a release comes along that's a flat-out revolution. SQL Server 6.0, back in 1995, was one of those. This wasn't just about new code. This was about drawing a line in the sand. Let's get into it. And that right there, that's not an exaggeration at all. This one release completely changed the game. It wasn't just a new version with a few new features. Nope. This was a whole new identity for Microsoft in the world of serious, big-time databases. This was the moment they decided, you know what? We're going it alone. So, what did it really take for them to make that break? And what did that new freedom actually mean for them and for the entire industry? It's a really cool story about technology, sure, but it's also about big picture strategy and a huge bet on the future. Okay, so to really get why this was such a big deal, we have to rewind a little bit. We have to talk about the alliance that had to end. Because before SQL Server 6.0, Microsoft's database ambitions were totally tied up with another company called Sybase. This slide just lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? On the left, that's the old world. Everything was based on a shared codebase with Sybase, and it was kind of shackled to the old OS/2 operating system. But then, look at the right. That's the future. A totally clean break. 100% Microsoft code built from the ground up for their own flagship operating system, Windows NT. And this is where that whole Declaration of Independence thing really comes to life. With SQL Server 6.0, Microsoft wasn't just tinkering with someone else's engine anymore. They were building their own engine for a new era, an era they fully intended to dominate. 1995. Let's just let that date sink in. Now, a lot of us remember 1995 for Windows 95 and the Start button, right? The big desktop splash. But quietly, behind the scenes, Microsoft was making one of the most critical strategic moves in its history, right in the server room. It all came down to integration and control. Being Windows native meant it could squeeze every last drop of performance out of the operating system. Being enterprise-ready meant it wasn't just a small-time player anymore. And being fully owned by Microsoft, that gave them complete control to move fast. But that last one, the integrated security with NT domains, oh man, for businesses already running on Microsoft's platform, that was the absolute killer feature. But look, you can't just declare a new identity without having the firepower to back it up, right? And this new engine, it was basically an arsenal of features designed from the get-go for serious enterprise work. One of the biggest new weapons in that arsenal was replication. And I'm telling you, this was a true game changer. For the first time, businesses could easily copy and distribute their data across multiple servers and keep it all in sync. Think about that. If one of your servers went down, the business kept running. This was a massive, massive leap forward for reliability. And the way it worked was just so elegant. You had your publisher, which is the main source of data, the single source of truth. Then you had the distributor, which acts kind of like a traffic cop, managing and sending out any changes. And then you had all the subscribers, the destinations that get the updates. It's a simple concept, but it was incredibly powerful for building systems that just wouldn't quit. And here's another huge win, especially for the people who had to manage these things, the SQL Server agent. Think of it as a tireless digital assistant that never sleeps. It let DBAs automate all those boring but absolutely critical tasks. Backups, running reports, sending out alerts. This freed them up to do more important work and made the whole system so much easier to run. So they added all these amazing new tools to the toolbox. But it wasn't just about adding new features. The core engine itself, the very heart of the database, got a massive upgrade that was all about raw speed and efficiency. Under the hood, the whole thing just got way smarter. A new cost-based query optimizer could intelligently figure out the fastest possible way to get your data. It could even run queries in parallel, using multiple computer processors at once to get the job done faster. All these little enhancements, from better indexing to smarter locking, meant SQL Server 6.0 wasn't just more capable, it was dramatically faster. So you might be thinking, okay, great, a faster engine with more features. But was that really the whole story? Of course not. The real story here, the true impact, was way bigger than just the technical specs. It was all about strategy. Which brings us to the most important part of this whole thing, the business reason behind all this code. Why did Microsoft go to all this trouble to build a database from scratch? What was the master plan? And there you have it. SQL Server 6.0 wasn't just a product. It was a strategic weapon. Microsoft's grand ambition was to own the enterprise software market with Windows NT. By creating a powerful native database just for NT, they created this incredibly compelling all-in-one package. If you were adopting Windows NT for your business, using SQL Server became the obvious, seamless, no-brainer choice. This was the move that laid the foundation for their future enterprise empire. So as we wrap this up, think about this. With total control of its own destiny, SQL Server was now ready to go toe-to-toe with the big guys like Oracle. The Declaration of Independence had been made. The war for the enterprise server room had just officially begun.